see that you don't necessarily feel like that you're ever part of the group. I feel like you feel and see yourself as an outsider. You were never picked for the team. And I see you from the outside looking in, and you feel like you're missing out. You feel like you are missing something. You are left with this empty feeling in the pit of your stomach. And you feel like you have a lack. That's what I'm feeling. I'm seeing you isolated, alone, by yourself, not accepted as part of the group. And you have this void inside of yourself that you feel like that needs to be filled. You feel that you have this void inside of yourself, and you need to fill it. And you see the fulfillment of it. You see yourself obtaining that through inclusion. Through inclusion into the group, by the group, included into the group. I see you looking at life as if it's something that you don't have. It's something that you need to obtain, but you feel like you do not hold, you do not have a grasp on life. You do not have a grasp on what you perceive life to be. You feel like life is somewhere else. Life is in front of you. Life is beyond you. Life is to the side of you. Life is behind you. You're chasing life without realizing you are living life now. You are in life. You are in your life, but you think life is elsewhere. You think life is out of your reach. And it's more of a feeling. It's the remnants of not being included by the group, not being included into the group, not being integrated into the group. That is what is responsible for your feeling of lack inside of yourself, and this feeling you carry with you throughout the rest of your life. So you are always going into every situation with this feeling of lack. With every potential relationship, you are acting, you are speaking, you are coming from this lack energy, this energy of not having enough, not having what you need, not having what it takes. And it's a scar that has been left behind because you were not included, you were not picked, you were not selected, you were not people's first choice. And that doesn't have a bearing on who you are. I can see the trauma in it all, and it has been traumatic, and therefore this is why you have this scar on your psyche, and you carry it with you because you haven't figured it out. You haven't put it to bed, put it to rest. You have not alchemized this. You have not transmuted that pain that is associated with being left out. And so because of that, it's created this false narrative in your mind of what you think life should be and what you think life should feel like. And so you've centered all of your understanding of life around the feeling of being selected and the feeling of being chosen. And so you exclude the life that you live outside of that idea. So on a daily basis, to you are not yet living life, except for the fact that you are, but that isn't how you see it. You see your life beginning when you are selected, when you are chosen, when you are a part of the group, a part of a group. It's that feeling that you're chasing, that feeling that you've never had before. So it's not to get it confused with life in general, because it is literally just, you're just trying to fill that hole that was created. Like, I assume, I'm seeing you at school, and I'm seeing you in the playground. This is the imagery that I've been given to show me that you weren't picked, you weren't selected. And so I would also say that this also happened when you were young. And so this is the wound, and the wound has turned into a scar. And see, the wound turned into a scar, but the wound never healed. But it left a mark on you. And so until you alchemize that, until you transmute that pain, you will have this wound that has never been treated. And it's only a scar because of that. And when you do treat it, the scar will disappear. But it very much comes from youth, from being young, and from not being included. And so what I want to say to you is that isn't when we are in school, when we are that young, whatever goes on at that point in your life, when you are that young and innocent and naive and undeveloped, and when you are immature and emotionally immature, physically immature, mentally immature, like anything that we do during that period can't really be held accountable. We can't be held accountable for the rest of our lives, because we change so much and we develop so much. So this feeling that you have is very much connected to a younger version of you that you probably aren't anymore. Therefore, it's okay. So last night when I was recording this message, all my batteries decided to run out. So the batteries on my mic and in my camera. So I've had to come back today to continue the message. So let's recap. So as I was saying yesterday, you are somebody who is suffering from this lack mentality. And I gave you the image of being young and not being picked for things, not being included into the group. And the message was very much to get it into you that the wound was in your past, and you have carried the wound forth into your present. And so I think yesterday I described it as having a wound, and the wound has a scar over the top of it. So there is a scar, but the wound is actually unhealed. And once you alchemize this pain, once you transmute this pain, then that scar will be no more, and the wound can finally heal. But what I very much wanted to say was about being young, and I think I touched on that yesterday when I said that we cannot be held accountable for the things that we do when we are that young, when we are at school, because there is a large contrast between that version of us and the adult version of us. So it's about understanding that you are not who you once were, and who you once were was an undeveloped child, was a child who was not emotionally mature, a child who had not fully developed, had not fully grown. And so really, whatever happened during that period, your school years, it's not really relevant. It's not relevant to the life you're living now. It's not relevant to the adult version of yourself, and that goes for everybody, not just you. And so I really don't want you to hold yourself accountable for an experience that you had when you were a child that was completely out of your control. And so what I'm seeing is that you are living in your life now, and as we've already covered, you are seeking the approval of others. You are seeking acceptance from the group. You are seeking to have the feeling of belonging. But really what you'll find, if you haven't already found it out already, is that being accepted by the group will not change how you feel, nor will it heal the wound, because your wound is rooted in the past. And so this is either how you are discovering that there is a wound and it's related to the past and not the present, or you will do. But you spent maybe a large portion of your time seeking approval, and you have conditioned your happiness, your mood on obtaining this acceptance. And so really either what you're realizing now or what you're about to realize is that the answer isn't in that. It isn't in seeking approval from others or in the acceptance from the group. It lies within yourself, and what you have been basing your life around, what you have been centering your life on, is this wound from your past and this sense of insecurity because of that. You've carried forth this it was put onto you, right, by other people. So because you were never picked, you decided that you were unpickable, and you decided that you were unworthy. And this is what you've carried forth into your adult life. And so what you'll experience is an unraveling of everything that is false, and then all you'll be left with is the truth, which is, you just got things mixed up, and all you need to do is to just deal with that little boy in your past who was at school. And I say boy because I'm getting a very male energy, although I'm not seeing a boy. I'm getting a masculine energy, but as its energy, that can be either a male or a female, because we have both masculine and feminine energy. So I don't want you to get stuck on that point. This is very much a message for all the people who resonate with this message. And so I see that this has probably caused problems in all areas of your life, particularly your relationships and any intimate relationships that you may have had, because obviously when you bring to a relationship a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-belief, you're constantly asking for reassurance, you're constantly asking for acceptance, no matter how much acceptance you actually get. And so there's the key bit of information, right? It won't matter how much you get, you'll never fill that hole, because that hole is an open wound from your past, and it needs to be healed in the right context. It needs to be healed by looking at that younger version of yourself in the past, because you're not going to have the same mentality now as you did then. Even though you've held on to this open wound, you are going to have evolved somewhat. So what I'm trying to say to you and to get you to see is that there is a massive gap between your child version of yourself and your adult version of yourself. So your child version looking at your adult self, and your adult self looking at your child version, you're having to step outside of those versions to try and understand what the other one is saying or where they're coming from, because there's a big gap, like a generational gap between a child and an adult. And there are things that the child can't understand about the adult self, and things that the adult self can't understand about the child self. So you have to make sure that you put everything into the right context in order to solve your problem. You have to make sure that you are actually dealing with it in the correct way, and you're not just convincing yourself that it's one thing when really there's something else, a layer underneath, that is the root of the problem. And I think if you can look at it like this, it will become very obvious to you what must be done. And I don't think it will take any time at all for you to actually unravel into a better version of yourself, because really you're living with this false sense of how things actually are. And when you're doing that, you're also you're in a resistant energy. You are resistant. There is resistance there because you're not playing with a full deck, so to speak. So you do not have alignment. You do not have 100% alignment with anything that you are doing, because you are convincing yourself that it's one way. Underneath it's another way entirely. And you're trying to accomplish things in your life, and they're probably not turning out very well. They're probably not working because they're not rooted in your own personal truth. And what I'm, it's been brought to my attention is this whole lack mentality generally does stem from a lack of understanding about a mechanism, or just having this false idea of things, and how things are and how things work and how you feel. It really is, it's like an absence of truth, this lack mentality, where we have backed ourselves into a corner and convinced ourselves that we have no power, we have no control, we cannot manifest anything that we want, and we do not have the confidence to seek out what we desire. And because, like, I have a card, a tarot card, and it actually is a card about lack mentality, and it has a figure standing looking down into an empty pit. It's a void, there's nothing in there, so it's an absence of everything. And this person is constantly looking into an absence of everything, and that is what they are manifesting. They're manifesting nothing because their perception is limited, and that is how they see things. They see things as being empty and incomplete, and so the energy just matches them, and so does the world around them. And so I hope that you can see that, and use this as a framework for other areas of your life and other areas of your psyche that may be somewhat misinformed, or you have misinterpreted. we really must try and retrace the origins of all of our feelings, emotions, thoughts and impressions, and get the right context in order to alchemize, in order to transmute them into something more healthy, more positive, into the truth. But essentially, I think that's it for this message. I think everything that I needed to say has been said. This happens to all of us at some point, and most of us for much of our lives live like this. We We do not know where to attribute the blame for things, and we end up carrying them through our lives, and they affect everything in our life. They affect how we move, they affect our relationships, they affect, sorry, how we love other people, how we love ourselves. So this message is very much a message of hope and inspiration. It's a very simple switch, really, in essence, of how you can switch your mind around and see the truth for what it is. So if anybody out there is suffering from a lack mentality, I really do hope this video finds you and you can realign yourselves with your true self.